That is not fair. You should not get Tom Hanks.
Welcome to Adaptable, the show that debates whether books or movies are better. I'm Beth.
And I'm Jacob.
And today we're discussing
The DaVinci Code and whether the book
or the movie
is better. Before we start proving why the book is better, let's get into the plot.
This episode will aim to be spoiler-free.
The story follows Robert Langdon, a professor of religious symbology at Harvard University, and Sophie Neveu, a cryptographer for the French police, who are attempting to unravel the mystery behind the murder of her grandfather, a member of a secret society called the Priory of Sion.
The Priory of Sion aims to protect the secret of the Holy Grail from the world, which would unravel the Catholic Church. Assisted by Sir Lee Teabing, Langdon and Sophie go through a series of puzzles and discover the nature of the Grail and its location.
Since the book came first, I'll start. I have read the book 4 times and seen the movie at least 2 dozen, so I can definitively say that the book is better, and here's why. Firstly, the book's pacing is ideal for the way that Dan Brown writes. He writes with a lot of detail, and so that allows you to really take in everything that he's saying, everything he's describing, while figuring out all the puzzles for yourself, or at least attempting to, as the characters are doing so as well. So it really makes you feel like you are a part of this story. You're with Langdon, you're with Sophie on their mission to find her grandfather's killer. Secondly, the book actually takes time to build suspense as Dan Brown intended it. You have to wait until at least halfway through the book before you finally find out the nature of the Grail, whereas the movie gives it to you in 20 minutes. Finally, the way the characters are described in the book works so much better for the story and actually helps to push the plot along, as opposed to the movie, which just drops talented actors in for various roles with zero regard for how they look and whether or not they match the characters they're supposed to portray. So for anyone who's literate, the book is better.
Alright, I have seen the movie once and read the book once, and that was all it took for me to know the movie is better. Number 1! The movie, because of its visual art form, allows you to see the beautiful spaces this story takes place in. For example, Lee Teabing lives in a giant mansion that you get to see the vastness of that mansion. It also takes place in Paris and London, which are just gorgeous locations to film on. On the flip side of that visual element, you have all of the violence that takes place in this story, and you get to see the juxtaposition of this awful violence happening in these beautiful locations. And it really points to how important the Grail is and how much violence is going into protecting it. Number 2. One thing that the movie does a really good job of in trying to represent the book's constant flipping between chapters is they have the ability to show 2 things happening simultaneously. Whereas in a book you have to read one chapter and all of their events, and then the other chapter and all of their events. The movie literally gets to jump between two scenes at the same time, which means you get to see somebody talking about the Grail while you're seeing somebody else defending the Grail and how those compare against each other. You don't have that element in the book because you literally can't do that on paper. Number 3, there are so many art pieces that are made by Leonardo da Vinci that are so key to the plot and little pieces within them that when I was reading the book, I had to pause the story and go Google to make sure I knew what we were talking about. In the movie, they're already there for you, which means you don't have to step away from the story to go figure out what they're talking about in the story. In conclusion, anyone who thinks go suck on a paper cut.
No.
Oh, look, a paper cut.
Okay, we're just gonna ignore you. First of all, there are literally 3 paintings that he mentions that are at least important to the plot. First is the Mona Lisa. Everybody knows what that looks like. Second is the Last Supper. Again, everybody knows what that looks like.
Except that everything that they're talking about in the Last Supper, the concept
They're
being...
describing it for you, so you're fine.
But the whole concept being that they are playing a game where Sophie closes her eyes and tries to describe the Last Supper as she thinks it is, and as most people think it is, and Lee is pointing out all of the flaws.
Yes.
So naturally you want to look at it while you're reading it.
No.
Because it matches up with what you think you know of the Last
The way
Supper.
it's supposed to happen is you think of the way that, most likely the way Sophie did, where, hey, there's certain things going on that I think there should be, and then here comes Lee and goes, no, they're not actually.
If you want to argue that playing along with the puzzles is fun about the book, then you can't tell me you don't enjoy playing along with the puzzles of the painting. Also, on your point about the use of the actors selected for these characters and the use of popular actors, those actors are popular for a reason. For instance, Tom Hanks plays Robert Langdon. Brilliant.
He is like the one saving grace of the entire movie. I love Tom Hanks.
False! Ian McKellen is also in this movie!
No. Yes, Ian McKellen is a great actor. I openly admit that. Magneto, amazing. However, Sir Lee Teabing, he is not. Not even a little bit. Lee Teabing, in the book, is described as a portly dude, ruby-faced, red hair. Does that sound like Ian McKellen to you? No.
The duality of the character of Lee Teabing is so important to the plot, and Ian McKellen, first of all, just to play a brilliant Englishman, like, I can't think of a better casting, but also plays the duality of the character so
but
well.
The description of the character is there for a reason, and the movie just kind of cast that off to the side and said, hey, screw this, we're gonna just cast this guy. Is he a great actor?
Because he's
yes.
good!
Yes, he's good, but he is not Sir Lee Teabing.
I would rather see a good actor do justice to the story of it than see somebody with frizzy red hair, because Carrot Top in this movie would have been awful.
You could have at least dressed him up a little bit differently. But none of this characterization matters at all because the pacing of the movie sucks. Completely and utterly. You get no time to process anything before they switch to the next scene, or flash to a new character, or reveal something else. You don't have time to fully understand the gravity of what has just been revealed to you until you're like 4 points behind.
Okay, I really struggle to argue this point for the sole reason that both of us read the book before we saw the movie. And if you have done that, then the movie, with the knowledge how much they are trying to cram in, does pace really quickly. We don't have anyone who's seen the movie prior to reading the book, so I legitimately don't know if you can actually follow the plot of the movie if you haven't read the book first.
So, what we're saying here is...
The book's pacing is a little better, particularly if you like puzzles. Which is probably why you're reading this series to begin with.
The book is better. Thank you for joining us for this debate.
This has been Adaptable. Yes!
Let's get into the plot.
This episode will aim to be spoiler-free. Banana.
Do-do-do-do.
Blah blah.
Do-do-do-do.
Blah blah.